So as you can read in the curriculum, no discussion on volatility is complete without touching upon implied volatility, and that will be exactly the purpose of this lesson. I know that at first glance this may look like a very math-heavy lesson, but please don't worry because I will only illustrate to you what is the most important part from a testability perspective, such as you will have the intuitive sense to pass the FRM exam. So let's get started. So first of all, what is implied volatility? Implied volatility, as you can see over here, is the expected future volatility derived from observed option prices. It is a forward-looking volatility, also called as the fear gauge. So this is what you can see in the curriculum, which is nothing more but the famous VIX index, and the VIX index is nothing more but the implied volatility calculated based on 30-day options on the S&P 500 index. So now that we understand the big picture, let's ask ourselves why this volatility is implied. And the reason this volatility metric is implied is because it is calculated by working backwards from option pricing models. You will understand what I mean in a bit. So this is the famous option pricing model by Black-Scholes, and this is laser focused on a call option. Obviously, there is a formula for the put option as well, but within the context of this illustration, let's just stick to this formula on the call option. And speaking straight from the conclusion, the reason implied volatility is implied is because we calculate the volatility based on this formula over here. You will understand everything in a bit, just please stick with me. And in order for you to have a better understanding, let's have a closer look on the components of this formula. And as we all know, letter C stands for the option price, S0 stands for the value of the underlying, the letter K over here is standing for the strike price, the letter R over here is standing for the risk-free rate, and T over here is standing for the maturity. And at this point, you may reasonably ask, like, okay, but I understood that we calculate volatility from this formula and I don't see it. Where is the implied volatility? The volatility that we want to calculate from this formula is defined in these components over here. And before you run away, give me a minute to show you that this is not as complicated as it seems. I don't want to get very deep on what these two items in the formula actually refer to, because as I earlier said, this is just from a big picture perspective. So let us just look at the components of this formula. So as you can observe over here, the green S0 is the value of the underlying, the purple K is the strike price, the yellow R is the risk-free rate, and of course the green capital T over there is the time to maturity. So what I want you to observe over here is that these elements over here are pretty much the same with these elements over here. The only element that is new over here is the implied volatility. And what I want you to observe over here is that all these values are known values, meaning that all of these values can be directly observed from the market. The only value that is unknown is the implied volatility. And if this is the situation, no matter what sort of a complex equation we have, at the end of the day, what that means is that we have one equation and one unknown variable. And this is the very reason why this volatility is called an implied volatility.